News!
Okay, we'll start with this. It's going to be a particularly busy weekend in the sport of boxing. We all know that Davis versus Garcia, that long-awaited showdown, is set to go down this Saturday. But before that, there are going to be two separate shows, going head-to-head with each other. Two cards, a DAZN card and a Sky Sports card. On Sky, you've got the Alen Babic versus Lukas Rozensky WBC Bridgerweight title fight. And on DAZN, you're going to have the Shavkat Rakhimov versus Joe Cordina IBF Super Featherweight title fight. I like both main events. I like both undercards. On the undercard of Babic versus Rozensky, you're going to be seeing Poland's own unbeaten up-and-comer in the women's super bantamweight division, Laura Grzeb, take on Italy's own Maria Secchi. Already talked about this fight.
This is for the EBU title in the women's super bantamweight division. Ellie Scotney's old EBU title.
I've talked about this fight. It's a good fight. Good scalp for Laura Grzeb, who I'm picking to win this fight on points on the premise that she's a much more polished boxer than Maria Secchi, who, when frustrated, will resort to dirty boxing. It's up to Laura Grzeb to prevent that from happening by creating space and picking her off, playing at the angles.
Using the feet, using the ring.
Neither Maria Secchi or Laura Grzeb are all that heavy-handed. They're not knockout merchants, so this is a fight that likely goes the distance, goes to the cards, and when it does, I anticipate that Laura Grzeb will have her hand raised. She is the more educated fighter of the two, the more polished boxer.
That's on the undercard of Babic versus Rozensky. On the undercard of Rakhimov versus Cordina.
You're going to see Australia's own unbeaten Sky Nicholson take on Linda Laker.
The same Linda Laker that just got dominated by Raven Chapman not but a few weeks ago. A few weeks later,
she'll be opposite the ring Sky Nicholson, who has insisted that she's been working on things in the gym.
Sky's a pure boxer.
An outside jabber, a mover, a southpaw. And while that may work for some opponents, it behooves Sky to get more acquainted with fighting mid-range to inside. She won't be able to keep all these girls out at arm's length.
That's what I think this Linda Laker fight is all about. I think this is a fight to where Sky's going to try to step into her punches, step into her jab, and bring backhands over. She'll try to be a bit more aggressive here.
Linda Laker, she's kind of fighter to where if you squeeze her, she's going to give up ground, she's going to give up real estate, she's going to start to move lateral, look to set up a counter shot. But because Sky is a little taller, a little longer, a little younger, and somewhat quicker,
she's going to beat Linda to the punch.
This is a learning fight. The basic idea here is trying to get Sky Nicholson to show a little bit more aggression in a controlled environment whilst mitigating the risks, because Linda Lake is not a big puncher.
Albeit a very experienced fighter.
With more rounds in the bank by and large than Sky Nicholson. The basic idea here is allowing Sky the opportunity to work on being a more aggressive and fan-friendly fighter.
Sky don't throw a lot of punches.
Sky's not an action fighter, but in some instances, you are going to have to be the one to press the action or
risk getting outworked.
Sky's working on that. And because she debuted as a professional last year, she's only got a little over a year's time in the pro game. I'm patient with Sky. I think she should be allowed to work on things because that's what these early years and these early fights are for. Rounding out the fighter, we're also going to see Sandy Ryan.
She's going to be fighting unbeaten Marie-Pierre Huel from Canada. I have Sandy Ryan winning that fight. I talked about that fight in my previous video. I think Sandy's going to see herself become WBO champion this weekend.
All set to go down on the undercard of Shavkat Rakhimov versus Joe Cordina. When it comes to that fight, when it comes to that main event, I've got Joe Cordina knocking out Shavkat Rakhimov. I think he's got more gusto, more spite than Zelfa Barrett, who faced Shavkat Rakhimov before, actually hurt the guy, dropped him, but didn't finish him. I think Joe Cordina.
I think he's going to stop this guy. I think he's going to become IBF Super Featherweight champion.
These are two very good cards that will be going head-to-head with each other by way of DAZN and Sky. When you think about the Sky Sports card set to go down in Poland, Alen Babic versus Lukas Rozensky. The same thing that makes Alen Babic such an entertaining fighter to watch is the same thing that may one day get him knocked out. He throws caution to the wind.
I am a little bit more intrigued by Babic versus Rozensky than Cordina versus Rakhimov because I've been settled on my prediction for that fight for a while now. I like Joe Cordina to win, and I like him to win by knockout, whereas Babic is a guy who, he seems like he's on borrowed time almost.
This being his best bet to see himself become a world champion of any kind, even if it's just a Bridgerweight champion. Even this fight is a fight where things could backfire because Alen Babic really does throw
caution to the win. On the undercard of that fight, you're going to see Grzev versus Sechi. You're going to see Caroline Dubois, her next fight, and Martin Bacoli. He's going to be making his Sky Sports and Boxer debut.
This will be Martin Bacoli's first fight since inking a multi-fight deal with the good people over there at Boxer. He's got to stay in the winner's bracket to build up to something bigger.
Gave Tony Yoka his first professional loss. Did it in dominant fashion.
Keeps that up, he could fast become a major player in the heavyweight division. I do like the Sky Sports card a little more than the DAZN card, though they're both very good cards, very good main events, title fights. I like them both. And in this day and age, it's not an either-or situation. You can watch them both at the same time.
You can have your television on a Sky Sports card or the DAZN card, and you can have your phone or your tablet,
Your laptop on the other.
It's not an either-or situation. You don't have to choose between the Sky Sports and Boxer card and the DAZN and Matchroom card. You don't.
You can watch them both at the same time, and I intend to this weekend, which is set to be one of the busier weekends in the sport of boxing this month. You've got Bobic versus Rosansky, Cordina versus Rakimov, and later on that same day, you've got Davis versus Gersha. In men's welterweight news, you might have heard that Conor Benn was provisionally suspended by UKAD on March 15th following his positive tests for the banned substance clomiphene last year. Conor Benn thought he could evade suspension by voluntarily relinquishing his boxing license.
You can't suspend his license if he doesn't have one.
Thus, he voluntarily gave it up, but that only bought him a little bit of time. It seems that the BBBOC and UKAD, they're really trying to nail this kid to the wall, make it hard for him to do his job. Even outside of their own jurisdiction, the United Kingdom, they've already convened with the Nevada State Athletic Commission and the California State Athletic Commission, who also refused to license Conroy.
The silver lining for Conroy is that he doesn't plan on fighting in either of those locations here in America. His next fight is supposed to take place somewhere in the Middle East. The issue is that the BBBOC is going as far as issuing out potential penalties to any fighter
And any team that decides to voluntarily share the ring with Conroy in light of his ongoing issues with them.
They may not be able to stop Conor from boxing in the Middle East, but they may be able to limit his selection of opponents.
Any opponent he has that has any aspiration of boxing in the UK in the immediate future could potentially face penalties for fighting him.
Services as a deterrent.
There were talks of Conor Benn going through with the Chris Eubank Jr. fight. In light of this, them trying to reschedule that fight, it seems that Chris has chosen to forego that fight with Conor and revisit talks for a fight with Liam Smith.
You have to wonder if those potential penalties aren't what dissuaded Chris Eubank Jr. from revisiting those talks for a Conor Benn fight.
Now, Conor Benn,
He can fight.
at least in theory, he may still be able to fight. He may still be able to fight on so long as he fights someone that has no plans to box in the UK in the future.
Somebody that does most of their fighting perhaps here in America or south of the border. Maybe somebody who does most of their boxing in the Far East. Maybe Asia.
Yeah.
Maybe Eastern Europe.
So long as they're not based out of the United Kingdom and so long as they don't plan on boxing there anytime in the near future, Conor Benn may be able to secure, that kind of opponent, though the BBBOC and UKAD are making themselves very hard to ignore.
I said it before and I'll say it again. There seems to be a rancor specific to Conor Benn that we don't see from them when it comes to other situations, previous ones.
They really want to nail this kid to the wall and stifle his progress, his boxing career, and they're creating a situation to where Conor Benn is going to have to reach a truce with them of some kind, because Conor,
His marquee value is in the United Kingdom.
if a Conor Benn fight is a hot ticket anywhere, it's a hot ticket in the UK. He still primarily caters to that audience, and if they're creating an environment to where he can't even box there, and they're limiting the pool of options he has,
That's saying that, you can't make a fight between Conor and a Michael McKinson, for example, because Michael's based out of the UK, and the potential penalties Michael might face for boxing Conor, that might dissuade him from taking such a fight. And that would apply to a lot of UK-based fighters.
So fights that you might want to see, fights that might be hot tickets between Conor Benn and other Brits, they're off the table, at least for right now. Surely you can see how that can affect the matchmaking for Conor, that even if he can finagle a situation to where he finds someone to fight, it won't be a significant fight, not a relevant one.
Kind of said a few weeks ago that he was going to sue the BBBOC. We haven't heard much in terms of that. Much progress.
That might be an avenue he has to pursue in order to get them to stand down. A lengthy, expensive legal battle, but it won't just be expensive for them, it'll be expensive for Conor as well.
So he claims to have spared no expense doing his own independent research as to what really happened with that clomiphene thing.
It's a mess. This entire situation continues to be one big fucking mess.
It is.
Conor Benn himself reacted to this news by saying, "I can't comment on anything to do with UKAD other than to say that I am in touch with them. Someone at the BBBOC or UKAD obviously wanted to create a headline unlike the Khan case where it was kept quiet for 14 months. But this is nothing new. I remain free to fight outside of the UK."
That much we knew already.
Boxing manager Sam Jones asked a very relevant question to this conversation. How can you suspend him being Conor Benn, if he didn't fail the UKAD test?
Most will point to the VADA tests that had the adverse findings, but
It seems that the BBBOC didn't start recognizing the results from VADA tests until recently. A recent alteration they made to their bylaws in September of last year.
you might have heard about it.
You've got to look at the chronology of all of this. The adverse findings in Conor Benn's samples were from tests that were taken in the summer
I
months.
think they said it was around August.
But the BBBOC didn't change their bylaws in order to recognize the results of a VADA test, a third-party anti-doping organization, until what, September of last year?
After Conor Benn samples were taken.
It's almost like they altered their own bylaws in order to be able to pin Conor Benn to the wall. And then you look at this, that they're suspending this guy provisionally.
Even though he doesn't have a license.
He doesn't have a license with the BBBOC, and he didn't fail any anti-doping tests by way of UKAD. The adverse findings were by way of VADA. His UKAD tests came back clear.
You have to wonder if Conor Benn's lawyers can use that as a defense.
If he does in fact pursue legal action, that at the time those samples were taken by VADA last year in the summer, the BBBOC's bylaws had not yet been altered.
And now they're using those samples as a premise to punish Conor Benn, to suspend him.
Even though there were no adverse findings by way of the UKAD tests that the BBBOC adheres to. It's a mess, I tell you. It's a big mess.
That's how it looks.
The latest chapter in this ongoing saga. Finally, in men's heavyweight news, Whyte, Anthony Joshua's old buddy, says he doesn't believe Joshua will delay return to December. He's a strange guy who's doing strange things.
Eddie Hearn yesterday made it clear that Anthony Joshua's return, whether or not he'll fight in the summer months, is contingent upon whatever deal they reach for a December showdown with either Tyson Fury or Deontay Wilder.
According to Eddie Hearn, according to Whyte, he says, that's a lie. Joshua ain't gonna wait until December to fight. If he's not injured, why would he wait until December to fight? Joshua just thinks he's some sort of mystery man nowadays. Thinks he's fucking Martin Luther King or something, you know?
White told IFL TV.
No one believes it. Anyone that believes that is an idiot. Why would he not fight until December when he can potentially get 3 fights in this year?
Sound logic, but it could be because he doesn't want to jeopardize a mega match in December with a potential injury over the summer. That could be the hierarchy of thought, and I've said that more than once.
That he don't want to get tenderized over the summer months ahead of what could be a mega match in December. That would be the logic.
But all this stuff about a mega match in December, the Saudis trying to put together a mammoth card that would feature Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder, Usyk, Fury.
I mean, the rumors are true. The Saudis, Prince Khaled, he wants to do this, though whether or not he can is another matter entirely. And that Anthony would hold up his career on the premise that they're going to get a card like that over the line, it was Simon Jordan of Talk Sport who raised some very valid concerns.
About the mentioning of the potential opportunity in Saudi, that's certainly in the offing. Whether it can be achieved is a different matter, but it's certainly an appetite that the Saudis have for it, and whether they can deliver it. But I listened to Dillian Whyte.
Is that a conversation that's being had, by the way?
Oh, I think it's undoubtedly a conversation that the Saudis are having.
Yeah.
Now, the difficulty that you'll have in making this fight is not the quantum of money that can be put up, but is the difficulty of dealing with the broadcasters. Because if you've seen the Anthony Joshua situation with DAZN and what there is there from that point of view, if you're the Saudis, you can find the money, you can put the money up, and clearly there is an ambition to do so. Clearly Prince Khaled has ambitions for these sort of things, and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia certainly has the money to do it.
When they bidded for the Anthony Joshua Alexander Usyk 2 fight, Anthony Joshua was with DAZN then, but the Saudis bought the fight, obviously, so they had the TV rights and they actually gave it to Sky TV. I mean, is that a situation that could still happen if they're buying?
If you're gonna put these fighters on this bill, which is, I'm pretty clear, is the ambition, you're going to have deals in place with a variety of different broadcasters because all these fighters, you've got BT in the mix, you've got DAZN in the mix, you might even have ESPN in the mix for one of the other fighters if we talk about other deals that are available. And it depends upon what kind of media buyouts you want to do with these broadcasters. I don't think the quantum of cash being paid to the fighters is the challenge. I think the broadcast and output deals will become the challenging the opportunity that they have to overcome.
The rumors are true, but that doesn't mean that they'll get the fights over the line. So are you really going to hold up your career on the premise that the Saudis can make that show happen?
Rumors of a show that Tyson Fury is now denying.
We have confirmation from Eddie Hearn that these talks are real, as well as confirmation from Malik Scotch, who trains Deontay Wilder. The Saudis do appear to be trying to do this, though whether or not they will succeed is another matter entirely. Dillian Whyte, he continued, he being Anthony Joshua, is just trying to create some sort of mystery. He's a strange guy. He's just doing some strange stuff, man. He's definitely going to fight before December. 100%.
You can definitely, indefinitely schedule a fight for Anthony between Otto Wallin or somebody else over the summer months. You can do that, but you don't know for sure. You don't know with any certainty that the Saudis will succeed.
It's like the old saying goes, a bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush.
You're going to hold up a potential fight over the summer on the premise that you might be in a mega match in December?
You might be, you might not. Just because the Saudis want to do it don't mean it's going to happen.
More time spent on fights that don't materialize. More time wasted, time squandered. That's been a problem for Anthony the last 3 years.
You got a brand new trainer that you need to break in Derek James. You need more time with that guy. Moreover, you need to be more active than you have been in the last 3 years. Activity.
It keeps you sharp.
Would further address Anthony Joshua's tentativeness in a match, the fact that he's not committing to his power shots the same way that he used to earlier in his career, that he's not the strong finisher that he once was. More activity can remedy that, but if you sacrifice that,
It's a gamble.
it's a gamble that I'm not sure Anthony needs to take.